Hi, everyone. This is Ron James at Upscale Exchange. We run a credit and incentive platform that helps small businesses recover grants, credits, and incentives that are available to them that they may not be aware of. And today I'm joined with John and Leslie Joe to talk to us a little bit about the R&D process and who qualifies. So first, I just love to have John and Leslie give you guys a little bit about them and introduce themselves. So.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is John Bohannon, and I've been performing R&D credit studies since 2017, and probably have a few hundred under my belt now. And I've been pretty much doing this since getting out of law school. I'm happy to share some information about it.
Hi, I'm Leslie Joe Osborne. I've been in the industry for about 7 years, and I work on the business development side of the business. And yeah, love sharing the gospel of R&D. So happy to be here.
Awesome. The IRS lists R&D as one of the most underutilized tax credits available to small businesses. So I think it's important that we get some details about that and how we can help your business with it. So kind of, John, walk us through, or Leslie Joe, what counts as an R&D that may surprise a lot of people, and how does that work?
Well, really, I think what surprises people the most about R&D is first and foremost that a lot of people don't even know that this incentive exists. It's a very specialized part of the tax code that's been around for a long time. It's a permanent part of the code, but it still has a lot of ground to cover in terms of awareness with people. So I think that's the biggest surprise, that there even is an incentive like this. And then after that, even when folks hear about it at a high level, just the name of it, they often assume that they don't qualify by what they would think the definition of R&D is, which we will certainly clarify that in this conversation. And the one other thing I'd say is a big surprise is that this credit is actually based on the activities occurring within the business and what people are doing day in and day out, and whether that activity qualifies for the credit. So that is why a relatively lean business can often generate a substantial credit still if they are rich in what is considered R&D related activity, which of course we will talk about too.
Perfect. When I think about R&D and research and development type stuff, I think about scientists in white labs with microscopes and maybe some mice running around, or some pharmacists. Is that a myth? Do I need to be in a lab to qualify for R&D?
This is what I hear all too often as well. And sure, of course, that would qualify, but it's so much broader than that. You do not have to have a clean room and a lab in order to qualify. In fact, if anything, that's probably more rare of a situation than I come across, at least in as much as we're really trying to spread the word. Those are the companies that already know about the credit. Really, you just have to, at the end of the day, be able to show that you're encountering projects that have kind of consistent technical challenges that you're resolving through a systematic process of investigating and evaluating how to work through that problem. And so that applies to a ton of industries.
Yeah, when I hear that really does broaden the approach for this credit. Can you walk me through just, maybe a manufacturer or software shop, and where does this credit actually come from?
Yeah, happy to. So, a good example that I came across is a manufacturing company, West Coast manufacturer that actually designed and manufactured boxes and other transportation packaging and materials for kind of the food and beverage industry, or really the agricultural business, right? They're making things shipping fruit and vegetables and other things like that across the country. Something that kind of maybe sounds a little on the simpler side, but wow, when I spoke with these engineers, did I find out that there was so much engineering that goes into these in order to make transport safe, in order to keep these fruits and vegetables from spoiling during transport, and then on top of that, the manufacturing process of actually making machines and laying out on the factory floor and assembly line how to maximize this output. There ended up being tremendous opportunity here, and for a firm with around say 100 employees, maybe about 100 employees, we ended up getting a credit for them, not just at the federal level, but also at the state level, since many states also offer a kind of a similar type of R&D incentive. We were able to get them over $300,000 in credits for just the last 3 years of work.
Nice. So can you explain to everyone, R&D and all these credits come through behaviors that the government wants to influence. What is the intent behind the R&D tax credit from the government to be able to provide this to small businesses?
Well, the alias for the R&D tax credit is the credit for increasing research activities. So it is an incentive to keep your innovation domestically in the U.S. and not outsource it overseas.
Yeah, so it's important to keep jobs here. We hear that all the time in the politics. So this is exactly built for that, to keep businesses doing it here in the U.S. And I think even if you're doing stuff offshore, you should explore learning about this, because you can do it every year, and you might find out that it's even cheaper to do it onshore with this credit that you get than it is to offshore your stuff. So it's all about keeping these types of jobs and these folks in the U.S. So. Yes. In recent news, we all know about AI. AI is starting to give some of these credits and incentives a bad name in some corners. Why and how does a legitimate study differ from those types of studies?
That's a great question. And really, at the end of the day, the big thing that separates it out is just the level of substantiation that goes into identifying and calculating your credit. The AI tools offer a lot in all facets of that. Is what makes the technology exciting, but people can really let that run away with them and not really have the foundational knowledge and basis to support some of the information that comes out of that. One of the things that is really important is having not just the substantiation package available, but also the knowledge to be able to provide audit support in the event of an examination. That's a really huge deal. And then being able to really make sure that you're treating your calculations consistently year over year is vital to being able to show a consistent pattern that the IRS will accept.
That makes sense. And John, you're an attorney. How do you support this? How do we support this? Like as we go through, if someone does get audited, what does that look like, and what support do they have from you guys?
Absolutely. So it starts from the beginning in the sense that I provide the initial kind of project management and actually run the studies to get the calculations in the first place. And then, unlike many places, in the event that you are selected for examination, that's coming right back to me for audit defense. It's not going to some other department where then you're kind of getting back up to speed with somebody who's unfamiliar with that study. With that said, when things get examined, there's an initial IDR that's sent. We provide the final reports that we have made, the credit calculations, whatever else that they may request in that first document request. And then I'm there every step of the way, responding to the auditor's requests and inquiries, and ultimately they'll render a decision at that point. If we disagree with that statement, then we continue to fight further and go into the appeals process. We really take that, all the way as far as we really can, short of litigation, and all of that's provided at no cost. That's built into our engagement.
All right. So you talked there a lot about documentation. What does that documentation really look like, and how much of the time will it take a client to qualify and go through the process?
Yeah, it's a great question. I laugh because the IRS is very nebulous in terms of their regulations saying that you have to keep sufficient records. And they don't elaborate a lot, such that you really need experience in the field to know through case law, to know through working with the service what they're really looking for and what they're not. That said, there is a lot of common areas of documentation that we're commonly looking for. It does depend on industry, but really this looks like contemporaneous business records that you're kind of keeping in the course of ordinary business that relates to the kinds of projects that I mentioned before that we're looking to identify and substantiate. So depending on industry, that may look like things like your design drawings and the iterations of that over time. That may look like, in the case of software, being able to have access to your code repositories and things of that nature. But beyond that, as far as how much time does it take, really what's important to say is that it only takes about the 30 to 45 minutes of talking to us initially to give us an understanding about what your business looks like, for us to be able to really give you a high level perspective of if this looks viable for you or not.
Oh, that sounds good. So 30 to 45 minutes and I could be eligible for, hundreds of thousands of dollars. As you guys think through, all of the R&D case study interviews that you do, who's not a fit for this credit?
At a high level, I'd say, the answer would be if you are just performing very routine boilerplate work every day where there's really no, uncertainty or innovation related activity going on in regard to, developing a new product, process, technique, invention, formula, or software. It doesn't have to be new to the world, just new to the company. It could be new or improved. If there isn't anything like that going on, again, if it's very routine, construction, things like that, or things that are just focused on aesthetics, because this is a credit that they're looking for technical uncertainty that is focused on the hard sciences. So those that's initially what I would say, as far as not qualified.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. So so it sounds like, though, many of these small businesses should, if they're developing new processes or have developers working on stuff, they should definitely have the conversation to determine if they could be eligible for it. As you think through, is there anything else that you would want the listeners to know about the R&D tax credit as they think through and they're deciding if they are a candidate for this?
Yeah, so a couple of points I'd like to add. One, when it comes to small businesses in particular, so say you're in the first 4 or 5 years of your existence, and you're working on something new and innovative. Oftentimes in those situations, if you haven't brought something to market yet, you may not be incurring income tax liability. That said, for small businesses, this can also be applied as a payroll tax offset. A tax liability you're always going to be incurring either way. So that provides a large additional value. Also, we're able to go back as far as 3 years for companies that haven't been filing this credit previously. And so in the case that you mentioned previously, that resulted in obviously this year having a significant reduced benefit, but we're also therefore anticipating 3 years coming back as a refund check. So that's putting money in your pocket quickly, really helping out on cash flow in addition to the savings that are really coming. So big impact.
Yeah, it's a great way to reinvest in those development projects, maybe accelerate some of the projects that you have in your pipeline that you just don't have the resources right now to do. A great way to accelerate it. And again, this is residual. So once you do it, you can actually continue to get this every year. It's not a one-time credit, which is something that's great as well. So,
yeah,
well,
exactly. And if I may just add one last thing too, while we do typically reach out and want to work with industries that have that kind of year-over-year sort of recurring activities that qualify, I think something that can get overlooked, particularly if you're doing this with contractors, is is having kind of one-off or say short, 2 or 3 years worth of projects that's maybe not your primary trade or business, but you're working with people to develop something that is R&D. So I've worked with banks and mortgage companies and things like that who have then developed significant software platforms that they did by hiring contractors, and that can often still result in, because you're the one that's funding that, we still want to be incentivizing those kinds of folks with this R&D credit, and it can still apply.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that, John. Well, Leslie, Joe, and John, it's been great to have you today. We look forward to some clients that are listening out there be connected to you guys real soon. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Ron.
Pleasure. Thank you, Ron.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.